If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew.
This is Joe.
And this week we're going to hit you with a brand new episode. I mean, obviously it's brand new. This is the first time you're hearing it. But it's a new topic, or, a new style of episode that we're calling Ask the Junkies. So hopefully if this works out in the future, you guys got more questions to submit to us, you can hit us up on social media or through our email. Just hit up our CBJ Pod Instagram and you can find all the details there. Or our YouTube page also has all the links. We're Comic Book Junkies on there as well. But as I said, to top it off, we are doing Ask the Junkies. So we've got a handful of questions here that we fielded from Instagram. So thanks to those of you who reached out on one of our posts and, submitted all these questions. We've given it some thought and we're going to answer them here for you today. So Joe, let's just get right into it. Here's our first question. Which issue is the more important black costume for Spider-Man? Is it Secret Wars issue 8 or is it Amazing Spider-Man 252? What do you think?
So it's Secret Wars issue 8 for sure. I could be biased because the first ever key issue I ever had was a Secret Wars issue 8. I remember it was the first comic convention I've ever been to, and the guy had like a mint copy for like $40, and I still have it, never sold it. So maybe it's kind of sentimental, but I'm also going to back it up in other ways too. The way I understand it, Amazing Spider-Man 252 came out first, and it falls under the Amazing Spider-Man title, so you would think that that's the book to get. But regardless, Secret Wars issue 8 was intended to be the actual origin of the black costume. And that takes place before Amazing Spider-Man 252 in regards to the continuity of events. And so that's why I think it's the better book to have. I think you could get both and that would be just fine. I used to have a 252, but I feel like it didn't make a lot of sense for me to have two of the same book. And so I kept the one that was more important to me. But if you just like collecting key issues, both are good books. I just think Secret Wars issue 8 has more legs, and just from my experience collecting, I like that book better.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you largely. I mean, I don't have any of them in my PC right now at all, honestly. That's a mistake I'm looking to fix. But I at one point had all of the black costume Spider-Man keys. Whatever you can consider, even the more minor ones. I had a copy of all of them just because I thought I should cover my bases. Now, you see, obviously I grew as a collector, realized it didn't matter to me that much about the black costume to have every book. But I still think Secret Wars 8 is the one to get. Like, I'm looking at getting one of those again, and, they're a little bit hotter than they used to be. They kind of go through a cycle, all of these books. They get kind of hot out of nowhere, then they kind of die down, get real affordable, and no one bats an eye at them. And then they come shooting back up. But I think they'll always hold their value just because of how significant it is.
Anything Spider-Man's going to hold its value regardless. So even if it's considered a minor key for Spider-Man, from an investment standpoint, I think they're both fine. What's nice about Secret Wars is it's a part of a Marvel event. So usually that has a little bit of staying power as well.
Yeah, and I think the cover is just, somewhere we could start. I mean, the colors, I think, pop more. It's a bit silly, but, Spider-Man doing the jazz hands for the first time in that suit was sick. It's been homaged 1,000 times over, and there's a reason for that. Amazing Spider-Man 252 has a great cover as well. Don't get it wrong. It's basically Amazing Fantasy 15 homage, but there's just something about it that I'm not saying it's lackluster, but it lacks the grab or like appeal that I believe Secret Wars 8 has. And that's not to discredit the book. It's a good book to have. It's just if someone held both of them out in front of you, I'm thinking that like, you know, just the colors, the artwork, I don't know, even just everything about it just would lead my eyes to the Secret Wars issue 8. And, you know, just to get into a little bit of the other books, like they're worth getting, I guess, if you have a few dollars to spare or you find one on the cheap somewhere at a local shop. But there's also like disputed dates and stuff like that because they all came out around the same time with Marvel Team Up. I forget the exact number. And then I believe there's like a Transformers issue 3 even from around that same time period that also kind of counts as like a early black suit appearance. But, you know, if you're putting your money where your mouth is, I think you should pick between these two, and I personally prefer the Secret Wars 8.
I agree with you. The Marvel Team Up and the Transformers issue are a lot more inexpensive, so if you were to find one for cheap, sure, like take a flyer on it. Between those two, I think Marvel Team Up is the better book. Anything Transformers is not worth investing in. You could argue issue 1, but it wasn't originally a comic book, so I have a hard time investing in that title, even though I'm a fan of the Transformers. But moreover, maybe I'm reaching, but Amazing Spider-Man 300 is the book to get. I know that's different than the black costume, but if you're gonna go for the grail of, you know, Venom, just get Spider-Man 300.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, you know, I think we've kind of exhausted everything we can on that question, so thank you for submitting that. But we're going to go on to our next question. This is a little bit different, not so much a collecting or investing question, but more so a preference of an artist. Many of you may be a big fan. I know especially some of the old heads, you know, kind of have a little bit more familiarity, a little bit more love for the guy. But John Romita Jr., how do you feel about this dude's artwork? I mean, technically, he's one of, you know, he's like a legend in the game. But how do you feel about his artwork?
He's a great artist, so don't get it twisted, but I'm not a fan of his art personally. It seems very, like, kid-like, or, you know, like, the faces look very blocky.
Block Lobster.
There's something about it that, like, it's like one of the things that wasn't good about the book to me. Like, it didn't make the book for me. Sometimes the art is better than the writing, or the write's better than the art, and having a big title on a book like that, you kind of like, okay, I'm excited to see what this is about. He's very technically sound just because of the lineage he came from, but I'm not a fan. I wouldn't buy a book because he's doing the art. I was actually really upset when they brought Romita Jr. to DC to do Superman, because Superman's my favorite character, so I had really high expectations. I was thinking, you know, he's going to switch publishers, maybe he's going to bring his A game, and I did not like reading any of it. So I can't hate that you like John Romita Jr., but I feel like his work is kind of more meant for kids' books, it feels like. But on the other hand, John Romita Sr. is the freaking GOAT, especially with his contributions to Spider-Man. So shout out John Romita Sr.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much right there with you. Everything is very blocky, doesn't feel very dynamic, feels like, I mean, I'm sure the guy takes his time, but it almost feels rushed because it just seems like there's some like weird outlines of characters, or I don't know. It looks like Superman smelled a bag of raw onions and, you know what I mean, his face is all twisted up, he just sucked a lemon, I don't know. But, you know, I don't want to be controversial, I guess, because like I said, I know a lot of like older collectors kind of grew up a bit more with Romita Jr., and I do think earlier on, especially more so his Marvel work, was a lot better. The earlier stuff, the Marvel stuff, like it at least gets more of a pass, like more so when he's with Spider-Man, kind of following in Dad's footsteps. But like you said, DC was a swing and a miss. Hell, reading that Superman book was garbo, and I honestly thought with John Romita Jr., I was like, this sounds like a good thing, and it was barely readable, or I mean, look atable. So I mean, not to disparage the guy, I mean, he's a legend, he deserves all the respect and everything that he earned. But if you're asking CBJ as a pod, are we Romita Jr. fans, the answer is gonna have to be no, not really. And I think that's where we could leave that. So with that, let's go into our third question. This is a bit more of a collecting and investing question, and I think it's something that we talk about and think about quite a bit. We're actually pretty staunch on this one. So here comes a hot take warning. Here's the question. What do you think of all the modern variants? Are they a good long-term investment? And Joe, I'll let you start us off once more.
I hate modern variants. I hate all variants. to be frank with you, I only get cover A. Like, that's Bible. If you like the cover, whatever, but don't be getting it just because you can't find a cover A, or like you think it's going to be a good investment, because they're terrible investments, to be quite frank with you. I remember falling for it when I was a new collector, and I bought like all like the 1 in 25 ratio variants of like Multiversity, and those are in dollar bins. So I don't think that they're a good investment, and frankly, some do well from time to time, but I'm not going to buy a bunch of variants until one of them happens to do well. The only thing I think that's worth investing in regards to variants is if it's like the first appearance of a new character that actually looks cool, especially if it is a ratio variant, because I remember when Spider-Gwen came out and I saw that, like, I don't know what the ratio would have been, but it's the cover where you could see her actual face in the costume, Gwen Stacy, and that thing's worth a freaking fortune. But if it's a cool character, I think it could be worth it. So for example, when Yara Flor came out, granted none of them took off, but I still feel like that was worth the gamble at least. So I'm currently rolling the dice again on a new character that's coming out called Red Canary. She's going to appear in Dark Crisis issue 3, so some cornbread for you guys. It may not pan out again, and that's why I'm not going to recommend you guys buy the variants, but that's the only exception for me in regards to like rules of buying comic books. So you got to be careful, because even with that being said, you don't want to get a bunch of variants of a new character that's not even cool to begin with. Like, I wouldn't even buy a cover A of Miracle Molly. So general rule of thumb, I stay away from variants. Don't buy one just because you can't find what you're looking for. I hate them.
Yeah, I'm largely with you. Not a fan pretty much in almost any circumstance. Obviously, you know, as I mentioned before, there's always exceptions to the rule. So, I mean, obviously, don't take what we say and just paint it with a broad brush. As you heard, if the character feels right or, you know, has promise, we may buy a variant. But generally, like Joe said, our code is to, you know, cover A all the way. That's the only one we're getting. It's the only one that we need. And it's the only one anyone really truly needs. I mean, I think a lot of the disproportionate sales, pump and dump schemes, and overall health of the market is tied to the overexposure of variant covers. It's mostly a modern problem. I mean, took off more in the 90s, has persisted through today, and I still think it's a nuisance that complicated the game. I think it's for people who, I mean, if you truly enjoy the art, I mean, go ahead and buy it, but don't expect it to be a surefire investment. There's a reason it wasn't the cover A, but you know, if you want to get it, go ahead. I mean, as you mentioned, you know, Gwen Stacy, she is an example of, you know, getting the Spider-Gwen, getting, you know, that's a good cover variant. Captain Marvel issue 17, the second printing, like, I don't like second printing, third printing, anything after the first print cover A I don't really want in general. But like I said, there's an exception. You know, Kamala Khan, you know, getting you know, that cover with her actually on it for her first appearance, that made it a worthy investment. Ultimate Fallout 4, the 1 in Who Gives a Fuck ratio, by Marko Djurdjevic or whatever. It's a cool cover, but like, that actually is holding its value. I mean, but Miles Morales himself is just popping off. But like I said, that's 3 characters in the past. Those all came out in the past 20 years. And those are like the only ones that are truly popping off like that for variant covers.
And some of those ratio variants can get so expensive. It's just like, if I had that $100 to spend or whatever, like, you have way more buying power putting that towards something
silver, bronze, gold.
100%.
And then on top of that, I just think that unless you're getting it off the shelf first week or, you know, day of, that you're probably buying high on it. As Joe said, you know, his Multiversity books, they didn't pan out. I don't see a resurgence coming for those, like, no offense. But, you know, that's what comics is, taking swings and misses when it comes to investing, if that's what you're about. We're collectors first and foremost, but it's very, very rare that we're going to sink our money into something that's a gamble. I mean, it's all a gamble, let's be real. But, like, you feel a bit more safe getting the first appearance of, I don't know, Thanos rather than, you know, cover B of Miracle Molly or, you know, Punchline. Like, maybe Punchline will show up down the road and it will be worth it, but you're going to have to sit and you're going to have to wait and you're going to have to hope that the comic companies know what to do with these characters. And I'll be real with you, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of guidance nowadays with all these characters that are being introduced. It's like, hey, look at the brand new thing, and then the brand new thing's put on the shelf for another few months or years.
I feel like it's a distraction from buying the stuff that's actually good investments, but it's also a good way for comic book stores to stay in business, because if they can sell you like
The same book 4 times,
100%,
then why wouldn't they?
yeah. And granted, like, love local comic book shops, hope they always stay in business, but it's like Funko Pops, you know what I mean? Like, it's just fucking miscellaneous stuff that they need to stay afloat, and I would much rather see their stores flooded with sweet comic books than variants and other rubbish.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, brother. And I mean, we can go on all day, but no one wants to hear us just dunk on, variant covers or modern books for the most part. So with that, we're going to go to our final question, kind of a bonus one. And let me say, like, when we fielded this question, I'm not sure if this was a typo or if, the poster was being a little silly. But we're going to read it to you as it was written, and we'll just answer it from there. So, question number 4, the fourth and final question of the day. Which comic book would you rather eat? Yes, eat. A Fantastic Four issue 1 or an Amazing Fantasy 15? So, Joe, if you got your, knife and fork out, which book you digging into?
After I put on the bib, I'm eating a Fantastic Four issue 1 because I'd rather save the Amazing Fantasy 15 in hopes that I could buy one someday. I figure maybe if there's even just one more on the market, I can maybe hold it off from appreciating so quickly. I don't know. I know one book's not going to make a big difference, but I'm sticking with eating the Fantastic Four. Both sweet, but I don't know. Spider-Man just kind of transcends the comic book medium, and therefore I'm eating a Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's just the rules of preservation at this point. It's like, do I want to take one more Amazing Fantasy 15 out of the world, or just one Fantastic Four issue 1? Granted, I'd love to eat or destroy neither, but in this question, I have to choose one, and it's got to be the Fantastic Four because I love me a Spidey Man.
Could you imagine somebody eating your Fantastic Four issue 1?
Oh, that shit pissed me off. This is just roughage for some guy.
On top of all the other crap I see done to comic books, like people writing on them or like cutting out like the advertisements, like straight up eating one would be
diabolical. This is the biggest thing a villain could do. Like, that would be superheroes coming to life. Like, a real villain would eat your book.
We'll fight you.
Yeah, it won't even be a fight, dude. It'd be no contest. We would take you out back. You eat my book, you're going down, brother. But yeah, I mean, with that, that's the 4 questions that we had for the day. So I guess you want to let them know what we want to talk about next time?
Sure. Well, first, let me just say this. I had a lot of fun reading your guys' comments and answering them. So if you guys like this episode, we could always post more stuff so that you guys can get us more involved and we can be more engaged with our fans.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love for you guys to ask more questions. Like I said, it's cbjpod@gmail.com, or just go to cbjpod on Instagram. That's the easiest way. Post it in a comment, slide in our DMs. And I do want to shout out those who did ask the questions. I want to give them their proper love. So we do have Toy Command. That's Toy_Command. They asked about our Amazing Spider-Man 252 or Secret Wars 8 question. We have Alex the Comic Hoarder _YouTube. Check him out. He's a cool dude. He has his own YouTube page, but he shot us the John Romita Jr. artwork question. Not sure, Alex, if you agree with us or not, but we appreciate the question. We have Millhouse Comics, who asked us which book we would rather eat, so shout out Millhouse. And we have Geranimals.comics on Instagram, who asked us about the modern variants and if they are a good long-term investment. So once again, thank you guys for submitting the questions. We couldn't have done this episode without you. And feel free to keep asking questions. We love doing this.
I want to give one more shout out. Recently, one of our listeners reached out to us, and what they did was create artwork for our page.
It was awesome, dude. I apologize for not seeing it the minute you sent it, but once I saw it, I was blown away, and I had to share it with Joe. So at JDBills_studio, so JD Bills, shouts out for the impeccable artwork. I really like the character choices you made too. We got Joe looking like a buff ass Booster Gold, and that's way more ripped than I'll ever be, but I'm a sick Spectre. And I think you picked like great characters that fit our vibes too. And yeah, check out JD Bills. Does a lot of great artwork, I think based out of Indiana. So give them some love and check out their page for sure.
Yeah, great page. seems like a great dude. Thank you for listening. Thank you for forwarding that to us. I'm a big fan. Flirting with the idea of putting it as our phone background. So, thank you. But lastly, we don't have anything cemented for our next episode, but we got stuff to cook with. So over the 4th, we got into a lot of comic book shenanigans, and we'll save it for later, but if that comes to fruition, we're going to have a fun episode.
Yeah. And I think you guys will really enjoy it. There were a lot of comic shops to be seen, a lot of comic acquisitions to be made by us, but also friends of the program. But we won't spill any details until we have a chance to, talk it out properly. And once we do that, you'll be hearing it. Should that fall through, don't worry, we'll have another action-packed, fun episode for you, so don't fret. But here's just one quick reminder. Just tell a friend about us, rate, review, subscribe. Anything that would help us would help any of the other podcasts you enjoy. Tell a friend, tell a family, tell strangers, anybody who likes comic books or is flirting with the idea of liking comic books. Even the people who just like the MCU, maybe they could learn something. But if not, we just appreciate you specifically listening, and we just want you to keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep doing what we're doing, and we hope that all parties are just enjoying themselves.
All right. Well, I know I'm enjoying myself, so thank you guys.
Later.